He opens his eyes after 10,000 years. His father is dying on a golden throne, his legion is a shadow of what he was, and every single warning he ever gave came true. This is not a story about perfect men, this is a story about what it costs to be right. Let's begin. Before the heresy, before the betrayal, before all of it, there was Macragge. Roboute Guilliman did not land on his own world as a conqueror. He arrived as a child, raised not by the emperor, not by a warlord, by a noble man named Connor, a decent man, an administrator that shaped everything. By age 10, Guilliman was reorganizing military formation that veterans had used for decades, not because anyone asked him to, because he could see they were inefficient. By his early 20s, he had transformed a fractious world in one of the most precise civilizations in the known galaxy, not through conquest, through order. When the Emperor finally found him, when the eyes met for the first time, Guilliman was already ruling a world that worked. Most Primarchs needed the Emperor to forge them. Horus needed approval, Angron needed control, Lorgar needed purpose. Guilliman barely needed anyone. He was given the Ultramarines, the XIII Legion, and he did with them exactly what he had done with Macragge. He built something that lasts. While other Primarchs burned through walls, Guilliman consolidated them. While Angron broke his legion through rage and Raslu through fear and violence, Guilliman governed. He established Ultramar, 500 walls, and made them flourish, not military outposts, actual civilization, with law, with futures. His brothers call him the spiritual liege, some said it to mock him, but here's what they refused to acknowledge. Ultramar fed the Imperium, its manufacturing outposts, its stability. These were not luxuries, they were the reason entire Crusade fleet stayed operational for decades. Guilliman was not just a general, he was the backbone of the Great Crusade, the logistical engine behind the most ambitious military operation in human history. The Emperor knew it, he just never said it. And then came Calth. The world bearers arrived with their fleets. Lorgar, the brother the Emperor had publicly humiliated, whose fates had been crushed under the boots of the Imperial truth, who had spent decades building a secret devotion to powers the Emperor refused to name, arrived with his legion. It should have been a joint campaign. What happened was not a battle, it was an execution. Veridia burned, the star itself was corrupt, turned into a wound that poisoned the entire system. Billions of Ultramarines, billions of civilians, dead before they understood they were being betrayed. Guilliman was not there when he started. He was commanding all the theatres. And when the senior reached him, when the scale of what was happening of a legion finally resolved into numbers he could comprehend, something changed in him permanently. Not rage, not grief, something colder. The heresy had not started at Ishtar. He had started here, with these people, and nobody had warned him. Not Makador, not the Emperor, nobody. He spent the heresy fighting in the dark. The Ruin Storm, a catastrophic war phenomenon summoned by Lorgar himself, cut Ultramar off for the rest of the Imperium for years. While Horus marched on TERRA, while the siege ground the walls of the Imperial Palace to dust, while the Emperor faced his favorite son across the deck of a battleship, Guilliman fought alone, cut off, blind, unable to reach his father, unable to reach TERRA, pouring everything he had into holding Ultramar against chaos incursion. When the Ruin Storm finally cleared, he reached for TERRA, but he arrived too late. The Emperor was already on the throne, Horus was already dead, and the Imperium, the Imperium he had given his life to building, was already broken beyond anything he had prepared for. What Guilliman did next is the single most consequential decision any individual has ever made in 10,000 years for the Imperial history. He sat down and he wrote the Codex Astartes, a document so precise that it has governed space marine doctrine for 10 millennia. He prescribed organization, chain of command, tactical flexibility, the division of the legion into chapters. No single commander ever controlling a force large enough to threaten the Imperium itself ever again. Rogal Dawn nearly declared war over it. The Iron Hands called it weakness. Ras called it a cage. But Guilliman understood something none of them would accept. The heresy had happened because power was too concentrated, because loyalty was assumed and never verified, because one Primarch with one legion could burn a world before anyone responded, because trust, blind trust, had been in the Imperium's greatest vulnerability. He was not building a military doctrine. He was building a safeguard against another Horus, and in 10,000 years of their following, through every Black Crusade, every Tyranid invasion, every catastrophic demon incursion the Codex held. He was right, and of course, nobody said that at the time. After the scouting, after the Codex, after everything, Guilliman faced Fulgrim, the Phoenician, the demon prince of Slanesh, a creature weaving the face of his brother, the most beautiful being the Emperor ever created, now something that moved wrong, spoke wrong, smiled in a ways that made veterans of 100 campaigns look away. At Thessala, the two met in combat, and Fulgrim's blade found his throat. The wound wasn't immediately fatal, but it was wrong, saturated with chaos, impossible to heal through conventional means, impossible to survive. Guilliman fell into a stasis field mid-death, frozen, neither alive nor dead, for over 10,000 years. Now stop and think what that actually means. He went under knowing that he had just built something extraordinary. The Imperium was wounded but standing. His Codex was in place. His 500 wards were intact, almost. His Legion, now the Ultramarines and their successor chapter, were the gold standard of everything a Space Marines could be. He fell into darkness believing what he had made, and while he slept, the Imperium became exactly what he had spent his life trying to prevent. The Inquisition, the blind faith, the burning of books and the systematic erasure of knowledge he had spent centuries accumulating. The High Lords of TERRA, a religion built around the Emperor who explicitly refused to be a god. Every compromise he had refused to make, someone else made them. For 10,000 years, he did not age, he did not dream, he did not see any of it, he just missed it. It was Cypher and a band of fallen who brought him to TERRA. It was the Eldari, an ancient dying race and their god of death, who pulled him back from the edge, and Roboute Guilliman opened his eyes for the first time in 10 millennia. He was brought before the Emperor immediately, the god machine on the golden throne, his father, the being who created him, sent him to the galaxy, and then without a word, without a warning, let him face Thessala alone. Nobody knows what passed between them. The chamber was sealed. When Guilliman emerged, his face was unreadable. He was named Lord Commander of the Imperium within days, Regent of the Imperium Nihilus, the highest authority in the human space beneath a father who could no longer speak. And the first thing he did was walk through the halls of the Administratum, the bureaucratic heart of the Imperium he had designed, and describe what he had found was indeterminable, grinding, bleeding death. He had built an Imperium of reason, of law, of rational governance designed to outlast any single man. But what he found was a religious empire drowning in his own superstition, where men were burned for asking the wrong question. He looked at what 10,000 years had made of his life's work. He chose to fix it anyway, not because he believed he could fully save it, but because he was constitutionally incapable of doing nothing. The Indomitus Crusade launched within months, 700 fleet groups, the largest military mobilization since the Great Crusade itself, new primary Space Marines, warriors the Emperor himself had seeded in secrets across millennia, distributed across every chapter in every war zone. Guilliman didn't just return, he rebuilt, again. For the second time in his existence, he took over a broken Imperium standing at the edge of the extinction, and for the second time, without complaint, without hesitation, without waiting for permission from a father who could no longer give it, he got to work. This is a man who has been right about everything. The Codex, the Legions, the bureaucracy, the blind faith, right every single time, and every single time ignored. He wakes up to a galaxy that spent 10,000 years dismantling everything he built. He has read histories, he understands the mathematics of a dying empire better than any other living being. He knows what is coming, and he keeps going, because he might be the humanity's last hope. So let me know in the comment if Guilliman is the only reason the Imperium still stands, or if he's just holding back the inevitable. And as always, thank you for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.